Good morning, everyone. I'm Caryn Davidson. I'm the Data Controller and Research Analyst for the Office of Teaching and Learning, and I'm going to go into some detail about course setup. This is, there'll be a little bit of overlap with what Josh has talked about, but he went into much more in depth on virtual and performance-based. So it's very important that your course setup is accurate. We use course data to feed all kinds of different data systems and different reporting systems. So LEAD, teacher certification, checks course data. Our KSIS scholarship program uses course data. Our dual credit scholarship and work ready scholarships both use course data. We provide civil rights data collection to federal reporting based on course data. Of course, all of our course data feeds into the Kentucky longitudinal data system. And then we have school report card and accountability measures that are affected by course data. So we have our school profile report, the courses offered in the areas of health education, physical education, visual and performing arts, world languages, and career studies. Those are all generated off of course data. We have our advanced coursework and exams, which is based off of course data, and of course the post-secondary readiness indicator. So accuracy in your course setup is highly important that all of this reporting is correct. There are two data standards related to course setup. One is more general, just the course data standard, and then we have a dual credit specific data standard because there are more specific requirements in that area. I'm going to go over a lot of the different elements here today, but I also included the links here for you. We strongly encourage you to reference these often anytime that you have questions. So as Josh mentioned earlier, proper course setup in Infinite Campus should match what is happening in the actual course as closely as possible. That's your overall guiding principle that you want to keep in mind anytime you're setting up a course or have any questions. So here's some different data elements that are in that course setup screen that we'll go over. You have your state course code. Our guidance is to choose the code that has a description that most closely matches the content of the course that's being offered at your school. We do have a searchable state course codes database within the new KSIS system. There's a link for you there. It has several different ways you can search on courses. You can type in a keyword or a short phrase like econ for economics to search for all of the courses related to economics, and then select the one that most closely matches the description of the content of your course. There's also some advanced search options. You could, for example, choose to see all social studies courses and see what's available. Now that is within our KSIS system, it does provide detailed information about what teacher certifications are allowed to teach those courses. There is the course element, which we've spoken about. Oops, I accidentally tapped and bumped ahead, excuse me. We've talked about some of those already. There are 3 different types. Most courses will not receive a type. However, if it's an online virtual course, it would be set up with a V, and you would not check the attendance box. However, if you're doing the new attendance-based online virtual, that would receive that type. And this is for our new A8 schools that are using attendance-based tracking per new regulation. In this case, the attendance box must be checked. And then we have performance, which Josh just spoke about in depth. We have the difficulty level. This is critical for our advanced coursework scholarships, the advanced coursework section of the school report card and post-secondary readiness indicator. If it's an advanced placement course, it must be set for AP. If it's a dual credit course, it must be set DC. International baccalaureate courses must be set for IB, and Cambridge Advanced International courses must be set CAI. Many of our reports are set up to use this indicator to identify our advanced coursework courses. And so if this indicator is missing, your students may miss out on some of those scholarships I referenced earlier, They may not show up on the school report card. Your school may not be getting credit for them under the post-secondary readiness. So, both for the student's sake and the school's sake, it's very critical that you get that set up correctly. There is the teaching method. We have further definitions on the course data standard that you can refer to. I would say the majority of our courses would be, number one, the direct instruction. However, there are a series of options, as you can see. And coming back to that guiding principle we spoke about earlier, whatever is happening in the course should be reflected in Infinite Campus. So if it's a dual credit course being offered by the college, it should be 12 dual credit college offered. If the course happens to be a mix of online instruction and direct instruction in person, it would be a 20 blended instruction. We have the instructional setting. Where is the course taking place? Again, we have more detailed definitions on the course data standard. Majority of courses would be one on-site classroom, but again, there's a whole host of options here, including O5 online, which is becoming more popular, the blended learning again, and we do have some schools that offer language immersion programs. So, if a math course is being taught in the Spanish language, then it would be an 11 Spanish immersion. Again, that attendance checkbox, which Josh spoke about earlier, very critical for ADA funding purposes. It cannot be checked if the course uses type V online virtual, and must be checked if the type is ABV attendance-based online virtual. And again, the contact for funding questions would be Josh, who gave the prior presentation, and our contact for online virtual and A8 schools is Ben Maynard. So please reach out to either of them depending on what question you might have regarding attendance. I'm going to go a little more in depth into dual credit course setup, since there are some further specifications beyond our general courses. I would say the most common question that we do receive about dual credit is what course code to use. On the academic side, we do have a series of courses. I call them the 8,000 course codes. For example, dual credit written communications is 8,011. These are set up to match the post-secondary institution general education requirement buckets. And the selection of which course code to use for those courses is based on how the post-secondary institution classifies the course. So if you email me and ask me which course code to use, I'm going to say, please go look at the post-secondary institution course classification. Usually those can be found in the post-secondary institution course catalog. There are cases where a course may not align to a general education requirement bucket, in which case you would just use the state course code that most closely matches the description of the course. I'll point out here that on the dual credit data standard, we have almost a page worth of information related to dual credit courses and which state course code to use. It's a table that says whether the course will qualify for post-secondary readiness, whether it qualifies for our different scholarship options for students. So please do reference that as well for more detailed information. On the CTE side of things, there is not a specific set of courses for dual credit CTE courses. You would just choose the state course code that most closely matches the description of the course. Dual credit naming is very critical because our high school transcripts need to align with college transcripts in order for students to receive their credit at the post-secondary institution. So this naming convention is highly specified, and it's critical that you get it right. The first 4 characters should be the content, that should be area abbreviation. And then the character 5 should be a space. Characters 6 through 9 should be the course number, and then you can include the school abbreviation. So I provided 2 examples on the bottom of the slide to point out that sometimes our course abbreviations from post-secondary institutions don't follow the specification exactly. In the case of Biology 113 at WKU, it does follow. We have BIOL, that's the first 4 characters, space 113, that's 6 through 9, and then the WKU. However, for Art 110, ART is only 3 characters. So in this case, you would use 2 spaces. So ART space 110 at EKU. That is the proper way to handle those. We also have the DCS school, and that is a little drop-down box that has a listing of all the post-secondary institutions that are working for the dual credit scholarship program. You would just select the appropriate school from that drop-down list. If you don't see the school there, you would use the all zeros and not participate in that program. And there's also a DCS lab indicator box, and that should be checked if there is a course associated with the course, a lab associated with the course that receives a separate grade. This is only if the lab receives a separate grade. And then in that case, a separate course should be scheduled for the student for the lab that's associated. I'm going to go over with you a few helpful reports that are available with Infinite Campus. We have the QA courses report. This is quality assurance. It will help you check. You can do all courses with setup concerns. You can look at just advanced coursework, AP, IB, CAI, or just dual credit courses. This is the logic of the report is set up to check a whole host of errors ranging from are you using a valid state course code to some of those virtual course issues that are coming up now. We just literally this past week put into production a whole host of new checks that will look at some of those things we've been talking about. Courses, if you have the type ABV selected and you do not have the attendance box selected, it will flag that for you and say ABV courses must have the attendance box checked. So we're really excited that we've been able to add all the report and provide you with additional information about setting up courses correctly. We strongly encourage that you set up these that you run this report on course setup multiple times a year. If you're on a semester, trimester, quarter, anytime that you're rolling over into a new set of courses, please run this and ensure that there are no setup issues. It's always easier to fix course setup issues within the current school year rather than after the fact. We're coming up on school report card season, and as people are going in to validate their data on school report card and look at that data and say, this doesn't seem quite right. 9 times out of 10 for my areas on school report card, it's a course setup issue. So we send out lots of reminders in KSIS newsletters to ask you to run those reports regularly. And yet we still find lots of errors. So that is your first and best defense around making sure that all of your courses are set up correctly and then your corresponding data is accurate. You can also just run a list of all courses in there if you should wish. We have the dual credit scholarship report. This is set up to help you both check and validate data and then create files that will go to KIA. So this is for both the dual credit scholarship and the work ready scholarship, sending data to KIA. DCS, this report includes all 11th and 12th grade students taking any dual credit courses, and the work ready scholarship report includes all 9th through 12th grade students taking CTE dual credit courses. There is 3 different ways you can run this. There is an error report, which will show you any missing data that you have. Your goal here is for your error report to run and be completely blank, meaning you have 0 issues. KIA will reject students with missing data elements, so this step is extremely important that you run that error report and make sure there are no errors. There's also a validation option. This creates a submission file that you can open and check to ensure that everything is as you would expect it to be. The reason we have this is that once you run your final submission file, the one that will actually be submitted to KIA, you cannot open that file at all, or it will mess up the formatting of the file and your submission to KIA won't work. So we offer that validation option so that you can check everything, feel confident that everything is as it should be before you generate that submission file for KIA. Next, we have the Advanced Courses and Exams report. This is utilized to verify data reported on the Advanced Courses and Exams section of the school report card. It provides both an aggregated and detailed data for students taking advanced coursework, and it includes all of the fields that you would see on the school report card. Essentially, you have the number of students taking a course and the number of students completing a course. For our AP, IB, and CAI, you have the number of students that took an exam and then received a qualifying score on the exam for dual credit. Qualifying score equates to a passing grade, a grade of C or above. Note that when running these files, the score section of the report will not be populated until we at KDE receive those scores from College Board, International Baccalaureate, and Cambridge Advanced International. Dual credit grades are entered at the school level and are available whenever those are entered. But we are in the process of receiving that data around this time of year, late summer, early fall, and getting those into Infinite Campus. So as with all other data that's populating into school report card, we do recommend that you run this earlier rather than later, during the current school year. However, you're not able to check the actual students with qualifying scores until that data is populated. And finally, we have the school profile courses report. Again, this is a tool to help verify data that will be populated on the school report card. So again, it's offering, or it's displaying the courses that a school offers in the program areas of health education and physical education, career and technical education or career studies, visual and performing arts, and world languages. This is another one where we often find people coming in to validate their data on school report card in the fall and finding errors, wondering what's going on. Well, that's a course setup issue. So we advise go run this report, see what's going on. You may want to also run the QA courses report in conjunction on some of these if things are not as you would expect. Finally, I have some helpful resources for you. We do have a course codes FAQ. It's got tons of information on a whole host of different topics. I strongly recommend you to familiarize yourself with that. We did generate a guidance document for setting up online, virtual, and attendance-based courses in Infinite Campus. This is different than Josh's virtual and performance-based document that he was speaking about in his presentation. This one basically provides some different scenarios of how schools may be offering online virtual courses to students, whether they're an A8 school or just offering courses not full-time. So we strongly recommend you check that out. It provides different scenarios and then recommendations for how those courses should be set up under that scenario. We have a few guiding principles documents that provide guidance around using our state course code 909999. We don't prefer that you use this course code. We hope that you can find a pre-existing course code that already matches the course that you are offering. However, there are many valid instances where there's not an appropriate state course code. However, there are some additional rules that should be approved by your school-based decision-making council. So that document is created just to help you understand if you're going to use that course code, what else should be happening. And then we have some guidance documents for our dual credit placeholder and digital learning placeholder, which came up a little bit in Josh's presentation, explaining how to use that placeholder during the student's course during the day, and then scheduling courses outside of the school day. And finally, I'll just leave you with some contact information. You can always reach out to the course codes at education.ky.gov. I check that account, so that would essentially be reaching me. However, if you have specific questions about academic courses, you can also reach out to me directly. And Holly Tracy is our course contact for CTE courses. Dee Dee, did we have any questions come in the Go Soapbox? Oh, Dee Dee, I think you're muted.
2 times, awful. So, okay, we do have some questions, and I think maybe it's for you and Josh both. So I think Josh said he would stay around to be able to help with it, the overlap. So the first question is, performance-based courses are on our schedules when they take the course. If they are off campus during the first and the third periods, we place the performance-based class they are taking during that time on their schedule. It is marked performance-based and no attendance. Is this not correct?
So I'm not going to say it's not correct, but I will say that we don't recommend you setting it up that way. We ask that you put the placeholder in first and third period, and then put that virtual performance-based course outside that day in that BPV time slot. And that's just to ensure that you're getting the maximum funding for your district on that student.
Thank you. Is there a list of Kentucky College abbreviations to use for dual credit course setup?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know of one off the top of my head. That doesn't mean that one doesn't exist. I think that piece of it, in terms of the naming convention, is not specified. It doesn't have to be exact at that point. I think if it's pretty close and we can figure out which post-secondary institution it is, I think that's probably close enough, but I'm not aware of such a list that. So I guess, long story short, we don't think that matters, that it has to be exact. I think most schools are pretty obvious, but if it's not obvious, do your best.
It might be something we could potentially put together as.
Yeah, it may be. I haven't been asked that question in 10 years, so.
Good question. Let's see, Gatton Craft Academy, do we have to put schedules for these kids?
You do not actually have to put inside the day. You don't have to put their exact courses, but again, we have that course code. Follow that Gatton Craft data standard. It shows you 100% the steps on how to set those up.
All right, thank you.
But again, those courses should be set outside the day that they're taking, that the college or the Gatton Craft are sending you for those.
Does the digital placeholder course include both credit recovery and initial credit online courses?
So the digital placeholder is intended for any, it's intended to hold space in a student's schedule where they may be working on, I'll say, a non-traditional course type that's offered online. So we know that sometimes students may be working on several different courses at a time during that space in their day. So yes, basically yes, either of those situations or course types would work, and the actual courses should be rostered outside of the school day.
All right, I'm going to stop here because we're at the end of this time slot. We do have some more questions for you and Josh. So I know Josh is up next, so he may not have an opportunity right away, but go ahead and include those questions, responses in the social Q&A of Go Soapbox, and you'll be able to see those very soon. And any that we can't get to today, we will actually include in the Q&A.